Passenger 57, where Wesley Snipes takes on the role of John Cutter, recently hired from the Secret Service to be the head of fictitious airlines security team. He gets more than he bargained for on a flight over to headquarters as the FBI barge on board transporting, and I'll quote straight from the Wikipedia article on this year, international psychopath terrorist Charles Rain, played by Bruce Payne, known as the Reign of Terror, because that's imaginative, although he doesn't go to great lengths to point out that he is not, as a point of fact, insane. Everything
and other rhyming couplets.
The insane of Rain stays mainly on the plane.
And don't forget, there will be no pain.
Everything does not go smoothly, however, with Rain's goon squad, including, for some reason, Elizabeth Hurley, enacting a plan to bust Rain out of captivity through the medium of hijacking. Cutter, aided by spunky flight attendant Marty Slayton, played by Alex Thatcher, isn't about to let it stand and tries to stop them, eventually forcing a landing where they must deal with law enforcement officials, ranging from the Gormless to the somewhat possessed of Gorm, as Rain's apparently sophisticated plans play out, which seem mainly to be called sophisticated because they're spoken of in received pronunciation, rather than because they're anything more complicated than escape with guns. Now, Passenger 57 is a movie fondly remembered by, well, very few people, and even then, mainly because they recognised how dumb a film this was at the time, and took it to heart because of that. People like, well, me,
yes.
Who, I don't know about yourself, I still can't get past some quite extraordinary dialogue choices. From Snipes' bombastic closest thing he's got to a catchphrase, always bet on black, to Bruce Payne devouring the scenery and delivering lines like an 8th-rate Hannibal Lecter.
I had a Passenger 57 club with David Watson at high school. We had sleepovers just to watch this, man.
Can I just point out, I'm not with these two.
We used to have sleepovers, and the whole night it would just go like, we would basically just practice back and forward their like impressions. It would be like, there will be no pain. No, David, it's like this. There will be no pain. No, Craig, it's like this. There will be no pain. No, David, it's like this. Repeat ad infinitum.
Breaking at points to do the knife fight dance music that they play.
The bongo music. Yes. Never explained to this day, nor is the line at the end of that where he delivers the final kick to that guy's face where he says something along the lines of, gotta go. I've still never figured that out, man. And I didn't think to turn the subtitles on this time.
Well, not thinking is quite a common theme on Passenger 57. I won't pretend this is anything other than the minimum viable movie framework to allow Wesley Snipes to kick people in their balls and look, well, at least one possible interpretation of cool against a bad guy performance that makes Hans Gruber look like the model of restraint. Bruce Payne went to RADA. Its reputation somehow still survives. Now, shorn of the nostalgia, no, there is no reason whatsoever in Space Year 2019 to watch the surprisingly nicely scrubbed up high def release, but I enjoyed my time with this regardless because I'm an idiot.
Listen, the Passenger 57 has one good thing going for it, and it's the same thing that all other Wesley Snipes movies have going for it, and that's the inclusion of Wesley Snipes. Yes. I have got so much time for Wesley Snipes as an actor. I'm aware that as a character out with the screen, there are several questionable aspects to his personality, and you know, the tax stuff aside, we can make all sorts of arguments there as to who the real victims in 2007 were, when Wall Street and the rest of the world's banking system walked away with one of the greatest crimes in history, nary anyone in prison, and Wesley Snipes got thrown in jail for not filing 3 tax returns. But I know
we can't get Amazon, but thank God we can get Wesley Snipes on a tax dodge.
That's it. I will get down off my soapbox there, because that aside, I know there are all sorts of reports of him being a dick on set and off. But as an actor, I find him so compelling. And when he has chosen to do serious work, he's a really good actor. Some of the stuff that he's done is phenomenal. What was the Mike Figgis film that he did with Natasha Kinski and whatnot? Is it One Night Stand or something? He was phenomenal in that. He's brilliant in so much other stuff. But the thing that I like most about Wesley Snipes is that the only person that Wesley Snipes takes less seriously than Wesley Snipes is the taxman, apparently. He has got a real sense of humour about him, and he embraces camp in a way that you would not expect from... And has he ever been an A-list? He has been an A-list. He has been A-list, really, hasn't he? When we think about that point around
Man sort of time,
Demolition Man and Blades,
A-list, surely.
Maybe not Blade, but Blade 2 certainly and stuff. That he's almost reached the cusp of that, and I can't think of another actor from that era, the real sort of peak of masculinity in American mainstream cinema, and the ideal of the sort of the muscular white savior, saving the world. And here comes this black guy who's not afraid to poke fun at himself and behave quite camply and embrace that at times.
And starring Tu Wong Fu, thanks for everything, Julie Newmar.
Exactly. I actually think he's quite brave for that, and quite aside from that, he is just a really, really good actor. So that he appeared in so much stuff like this is, I don't know if it's just like willful disregard for his own career, but when you think about stuff like White Men Can't Jump, where he was able to leverage some of that great sort of that. Because he's really good at comic material. Yeah. He's really good at comic material. And so in a role like that, where he was able to leverage that and actually some of his undeniable sort of thespian talents, you think, why have we not seen more of that? And if he were at that peak today, I would love to see the material he would be getting. But of course, by the time Blade Trinity came round, he had pretty much signed his own death warrant with his behaviour there on set. So he's a real enigma for me, Wesley Snipes, and I kind of wouldn't dismiss anything he's in out of hand. I will probably at least once watch anything you hand me, even if it's one of the release sort of straight to on demand sort of releases that he's obviously been sort of paying back his dues with. And Passenger 57 is really curious because Kevin Hooks, isn't it, the director? Kevin Hooks does a pretty decent job of hanging all this together. The direction isn't terrible, but it's still a bad movie. And the script has actually got some decent witty dialogue in it, but it's still a really bad script. And everybody who's in it feels like they're aware of the material, but with the exception probably of Snipes, they're all pretty bad as well. It's a curious thing, and I used to love it back in the day, and then I probably haven't watched it for the best part of 20 years, to be honest. Yeah. And this was the first time I came, and I was really sorely disappointed that it just hasn't held up at all in this watch now. I expected to enjoy it a lot more than I did, and it's kind of killed it for me now. But I like to think at that formative period in my life, I had my love affair with this movie, and I got my money's worth out of it. The rental from Blockbuster a couple of times or whatever, and I can't complain about that. But I doubt we'll be crossing paths ever again.
No, it's I was going to say it's of its time. I think even at its time, it was not quite of its time. It was a weird film then, and it's a weird film now. Likewise, I've not seen it in decades, and I will never go back to it again.
The thing is, I don't think in the midst of it, we would have looked at it then and realised quite how out of its time it was. And really what has thrown that into stark relief for me was the fact that there are 5 years between this and the other film that we're talking about tonight. And that other film we're talking about arguably represents perhaps like the last hurrah of that era of action cinema. And production-wise and everything, it is so many leagues apart from this that you would think they were about 20 years apart, not 5. Yeah. So, I don't know, but there you go. I've spoken enough. Sorry, I've bored everyone enough. Drew, this is the first time you watched Passenger 57, right?
Yes, it will also be the last.
Will you be playing roulette on occasion, Drew?
And if so, upon which colour will you be betting?
Which one's the one with the 00? It's green, isn't it?
Yeah, always bet on green.
Just do that. As long as moving forward in life, Drew, you forever now pronounce the word as plan, then you'll be you'll still be living with the legacy of this film. I am in command of this plan and everyone on it.
It's hard for me to say much more than this is a film that I have now seen. And
There's value in that.
I mean,
Not much value.
I've always
There's not much value in Passenger 57, to be fair, but
I've never seen it, but I've always been at least vaguely aware of Passenger 57 because I had this friend who would do things like quote it all the time and have sleepovers and talk about it. So,
Okay. What's sad?
yeah, a weird guy. I don't know whatever happened to him.
He bet on red.
I mean, I suppose it feels like a B movie with kind of A movie level production because it feels like better quality sets than you might expect of the material that this has. But there's not really an awful lot happening in it. I mean, I was watching it and it was passing by well enough, and then you get the horrible, almost kind of Buford T. Justice like Southern hick sheriffs. And okay, now I'm bored. And I didn't expect to find as much satisfaction in Wesley Snipes beating him up as I expected to. But then he ends up being friends with him at the end. I'm like, no.
Yes, that's they all laugh and are friends.
Couldn't they have all just died, please? That would have been quite satisfying. But no. I find myself kind of get vaguely distracted by minor things, which tends to happen to me when there's nothing in the meat of the film to really get me. It's like, there's the flashback scene for no good reason of what happened to his wife, and it's got that horrible sort of late 80s, early 90s saxophone soundtrack over it, which I cannot abide. And I've never even in otherwise films and enjoyable films like Lethal Weapon. See when the saxophone starts, I want to tear my ears out.
just as a side note, the soundtrack in this film is mental. It's all over the place, and there's all kind of weird mixes. It's nothing like you would expect an action film to be, and it's probably not in a good way, but it certainly kept me on my toes. Working out, what's this? Is this Vangelis or something? What's going on here?
It's really odd. So especially that, and then what I thought, because when I had this next thought, it was like, then I realised the big problem I have with this film in particular is there's a bit when Wesley Snipes and the air hostess are in the stewardess, are in the galley underneath. And he's talking about dumping the fuel, and she says, "What are you doing? We're on a jumbo jet." And I'm like, "No, you're not. Jumbo jet just doesn't mean big plane. It's a very specific plane." And apart from the fact I would have noticed anyway.
Yes, you're on a TriStar.
Yes, I know you're not on that, because for some reason there was at least 30 to 45 seconds of establishing shots of the airplane. And then that's for an 83-minute film. Boy, does this have a lot of filler.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot of empty shots and fluff in this film, and why? You know, it just feels like they had a very, very basic story and were really struggling to push it to feature length.
Yeah, it's like when they shoot one of the final fight sequences. It's like, how are we going to end this? Let's have him getting kicked in the balls. That's not enough. Let's have him get kicked in the balls again. Yeah, it's still not quite doing it for me. Have him kick him in the balls one more time. That's it. Green light.
Third time's a charm. Out the door you go, Rain. It's like the Candyman of getting kicked out of plane. You must kick me in the balls 3 times and I will fall out of this plane. Gotta go. Always kicking sack. It's a curious film. Do you know what's most interesting about this film now is that, because I thought to myself, Kevin Hooks, I only know his name from this. And in having a brief view of his IMDb filmography, his career in television is amazing. Since this film, he has gone on to do just about every major, like an episode of every major primetime show on US network television, man. His filmography as director is absolutely fantastic. After this, Prison Break, like frickin' House and stuff like that, you know, the Mentalist, NCIS, all this stuff. His career has been pretty good by all accounts. And I think when you watch this, that's the thing about it, is that it's not the craft involved from a director directorial point of view, isn't terrible. It's quite obvious that this guy, he's working with terrible material, but he does just about as well as you could with it. Yeah. And they've had the good grace to keep it to 82 minutes in the edit. It certainly doesn't outstay its welcome. As I say, I mean, they still manage a bit of padding in it there, but that's probably just for the purposes of getting it into cinemas as a feature. Yeah. It's slightly above workmanlike, and it's certainly about as good a fist as you could make of that script and with that cast. And listen, I know people comment about Liz Hurley, but come on. Liz Hurley, she's amazing, she's stunning, and she remains to this day. And she's not half as terrible an actor as people make out. She's only 3/4 as terrible. Is that more or less terrible than half as terrible?
Yes.
I don't know. Yes. Let's move on.
Let's see, you turn the denominator upside down and multiply it, right?
Liz Hurley is a national treasure.
Yes. Liz Hurley, Tom Sizemore and Bruce Greenwood together at last.
Yep. Oh my days.